Hello, and welcome to the Box Hill Institute's Open Day information session for the Victorian Certificate of Applied Learning, or VCAL. My name's Tyson McNamara, and I'm the Youth Programs Coordinator here at Box Hill. This session will cover information in relation to our Year 11 and 12, or Intermediate and Senior, VCAL programs, both our online iVCAL and our face-to-face versions of VCAL. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during this presentation, please feel free to ask them in the chat section and I'll be able to get to them. I'm also running a live virtual Q&A session later this afternoon, so please check the events tab for that if you have a more detailed question that you would like to actually talk face-to-face about. Now, before we get started, I would also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land of where we're meeting today. Now, this is a virtual event, so we could be anywhere within Victoria, but myself, the Nelson campus and Lilydale campus are on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nations. I'd like to pay my respect to their elders, past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to any Indigenous or Aboriginal Australians that we have joining us today. So let's get started. So I'd like to start by exploring what is VCAL. So VCAL is a senior secondary certificate, just like VCE. It is a year 11 pass and a year 12 pass. However, for VCAL, we call year 11 intermediate and year 12 senior. But when students are looking at further pathways, if they need to get into a job or a career or another certificate, so diploma or a Cert 4, that says that they have to have a year 12 pass, then that is the same as having a senior VCAL certificate. So there is no difference between the two in that respect. We do offer two different modes of delivery. We offer a face-to-face program at our Lilydale, Box Hill and City campuses. And then we also offer a fully online program we call iVCAL. That offers all the units that are required for VCAL and designed for students that might live a long way away from Box Hill campuses or for whatever reason don't feel comfortable in the classroom. VCAL is applied, practical and relevant and hands-on. We really focus on students getting ready for the real world and being effective, sociable human beings in that world. VCAL trains students to be effective employees, apprentices, or going into further study in the TAFE sector. Students have a really good understanding of what they need to do to be an effective employee or apprentice, or to go to further studies at the end of VCAL. Now, VCAL is not ATAR focused, and that's because students who are completing VCAL don't get an ATAR. I'd like to give you a brief overview of the Victorian education system here to give you an idea of where VCAL sits and the pathways that students are eligible to move into. In Victoria, the education system is broken up into three different sectors. First, we have the senior secondary schooling system, then we have vocational education and training, and then higher education university or tertiary education. Most of our students will be sitting around here, which is the compulsory schooling. Between year 7 and 10, students need to be registered and attending a school. Doesn't matter whether it's a homeschool, independent, Catholic, private or government school, but students need to attend some type of schooling. After year 10, or students turning 17, it does become the student's choice. Most students will still complete the Victorian Certificate of Education, or VCE. VCE is a 2-year qualification. Students need to complete 16 units across those 2 years. At the end of those 2 years, students will undertake a number of exams and then they will get an ATAR. Now, the ATAR is a ranking system. It ranks students against everybody in their class, their school, and then Victoria for that year. Students will use that ATAR to apply directly to a degree program. An undergraduate degree, generally called a bachelor's degree, which is a 3-year program. Students can then move on and do a 4th or honours year, and then they can move on to complete an 18-month master's degree, and then if students wish, they can move on to complete 6 to 8 years of a doctorate. This is the general pathway that most people think of when they're thinking of students pathwaying to further education. VCE and the university route is still the most popular narrative within Victoria. It's what's been around for a long time, and it's what everybody is used to. Parents, career advisors and teachers know this pathway very well. Our third sector, vocational education and training, or TAFE, is slightly different. It's a stepping stone system. Most qualification and study areas will start at the Certificate 2 or 3 level. Certificate 1s are generally foundation programs, so looking at English as an additional language or life skills. Certificate 2 or 3 will depend on the study area that students are doing and what the industry recommends as the entry point. After Cert 2 and 3, students can move into a Cert 4 or diploma level qualification. Again, depending on the career and study area will depend whether students need to do a Cert 4 or they can move straight into a diploma. The advantage is that as soon as students have a diploma or an advanced diploma, they can pathway directly into an undergraduate degree of the same field. However, because they have a diploma, they do get a number of credits for that study, so they will generally move straight into second year of a bachelor's degree. Now, I haven't spoken about VCAL yet because we don't fit nicely into any of these 3 boxes, and that's okay because we actually like that. VCAL straddles the secondary education and the vocational education because half of VCAL is education while the other half of VCAL is vocation. So half of VCAL are education units, and I'll speak about them in a minute, while the other half of VCAL is students completing a Certificate 2 or 3 program. Now again, it will depend on the pathway that students want, whether they enter at Cert 2 or 3. VCAL is just like VCE, it's a 2-year program. However, students are eligible for a Year 11 certificate if they meet the requirements at the end of Year 11. So students do have the potential to leave early with a Year 11 or intermediate pass. Once students have graduated with their VCAL and their nationally recognised certificate 2 or 3, they can pathway directly into a Cert 4 or diploma course, and then they can move in from there into a bachelor's degree. So the myth that VCAL students can't go to university is wrong. Our students just need to pathway to it. And to show you some examples, I want to talk about a few of our past students. So our first student is Chloe. She's currently completing her 2nd year of a Bachelor of Health Science with the hopes of doing a graduate entry into medicine. Chloe did her Year 11 and 12 with a Certificate 3 in Allied Health Support. After that, she did a Diploma of Health Science, which allowed her to move into the 2nd year Bachelor's of that. Crystal has just enrolled into a Cert 4 in Youth Work. During VCAL in Crystal's first year, she completed a Cert 3 in Makeup, however found that that wasn't for her. So in her senior year, she completed a Cert 3 in Community Services, really enjoyed that, and is now moving into a Cert 4 in Youth Work. We have Tyson, who is completing a 3rd year in a Bachelor of Criminology and Criminal Justice. Part of his VCAL, he did a Cert 3 in Community Services. From there, moved into a Diploma of Criminology, and then into the Bachelor's. And then we have Zach, who is a 3rd year plumbing apprentice right now. As part of his VCAL in his first year, he actually completed carpentry, so the pre-apprenticeship in building and construction carpentry, thinking that's where he wanted to go. However, at the end of the year, he decided to complete the pre-apprenticeship in plumbing in his senior year, and he actually fell in love with that career choice. He got a placement during his senior year, and that employer actually put him on for his apprenticeship as well. So he's stayed with that apprenticeship, he's stayed with that employer for the last sort of 4 years. So VCAL at Box Hill. We are slightly different to all other providers within Victoria. We offer 2 days education. So those are the core VCAL units. Those units are literacy, reading and writing, and literacy oral communication skills. Literacy is kind of like English, but we don't look at Shakespeare and try and work out why he said to be or not to be. Our students will learn to write effective letters, effective emails. They might write a letter to the local MP. They might write a cover letter. They'll write a resume. They will write a project initiation document. All of those real life applications of English that we generally use every day. Next we have numeracy. And again, just like literacy, numeracy is kind of like maths, but it's not. In numeracy, we don't ask students to look at a problem if a train is travelling 33 kilometres an hour and left station A at 8:05. The train is travelling in an easterly direction with 54 watermelons on board. what colour is the driver's hat. We get students to look and understand and learn about things like financial skills. So what is tax? Is it better to purchase the first car on a credit card or a personal loan? Looking at the measurements and number use that they need in their career choice, as well as everyday skills like travelling, petrol prices, how to get places, so location and direction. Again, the everyday applications of numbers and numeracy that we use. We have personal development skills, and that focuses on what used to be called the soft skills: negotiation, leadership, working together, teamwork, teaching students and getting students to understand how to function as a responsible, effective human being in a workplace. And then work-related skills. Work-related skills focuses on the student's goal career. So where do they want to go? And it looks at things like the award wages, the OH&S of that career, how to get into it and get promotions in that career. But it also looks at the impacts of things like automation, robotics and AI. So that way students can stay ahead of the pack and be employable for the next 5, 10, 15 years. These core units can be undertaken at Nelson, which is our Box Hill campus, our Lilydale Lakeside campus, or our city campus. The other 2 days of the week, students will undertake a full certificate. Now these are nationally accredited certificates and they're on the screen. I won't go through them, but what I will say is that students are eligible for the free TAFE courses that the government have offered. So the free TAFE initiative gives students access to tuition-free courses. They still need to pay for materials and a few other fees, but it is tuition-free. And it allows students to access the pre-apprenticeships for careers that are going to grow. So on our list we have the Cert 2 Building Instruction Carpentry, Cert 2 Plumbing, Cert 2 in Electrotechnology, and then the Cert 3 in Community Services. These are all tuition-free courses. The campuses for these will depend on student numbers, but the general rule is that students need to be willing to travel to Box Hill if their second course is not offered at Lilydale or the city campus. So that's important to remember. What's also important to remember is if students are undertaking a VETIS subject right now, they can stay in that program next year. And the final day of the week is really individualized for the students. Our teachers will work with the students to discover what they need to spend their time on. That might be work placement, it might be picking up some additional shifts of their work, or it might be additional private study. Our students also have access to our school-based apprenticeships and traineeships program. This is an amazing program that offers students the ability to start their apprenticeship early by working 2 days a week with an employer. And they will start the study or trade school 1 day a week as well. So they'll have 2 days of VCAL, 2 days working, and then 1 day completing their trade school. We offer this in a number of different industries, and Box Hill will support students to find an employer, but it's not guaranteed. So it is important that students, if they are wanting to get into a particular industry, they start to explore different options, start to talk to people in that industry, but also ensure that they are registering and enrolling early so we have the maximum time to support students to get an SBAT program. TAFE is not like high school. At TAFE, we are an adult learning environment, and we are really focused on teaching and training students to transition from a child mindset to take on more responsibility and start to act like an adult. We're teaching and training our students to transition from school to be an effective employee who functions in a work environment. We treat the classrooms very much like a work environment, and we will continue to talk to students in that context. And in that context, we are a competency-based system, which means students need to demonstrate a skill. I like to think of it in terms of driving a car. You would not allow your student to turn 18 and get their license without any practical experience. You wouldn't just give them a book on how to drive a car or driving cars for dummies and expect that they know how to do it. You would start them early, get them out on the road when it's really, really quiet, or maybe in a car lot on a Sunday when there's no cars around, and then you might move up to a quiet road. Then eventually you move to a busier road, then maybe a highway and a freeway going 100 kilometers an hour, and eventually in peak hour on a day that's raining. So you build on their skills every day, and then eventually you would send them off to be assessed and they get their license, and you know that they have the skills to be an effective driver. That's very similar to VCAL. We have a number of learning outcomes that we need to see students be able to do for the different subjects. And if they don't get them right away, that's okay. We give them another chance. We give them more work. We sit with them one-on-one to get them up to where they can demonstrate those skills. So there are no pop quizzes or exams with VCAL. We are looking for learners who are responsible for themselves, their behaviours and their actions, and driven and directed in their learning. We want students to take advantage of all the things that TAFE offer and all of the abilities that they can start to explore and refine within the TAFE environment. We want students who are ahead of the other students when they leave school, so they get an employer if they're an apprentice, or they get into a certificate for or diploma straight away. We want the best out of our students, and we will give them every opportunity, but just as that level of responsibility, students need to take that responsibility on themselves and take the opportunities that are there. Students have chosen to come to Box Hill. If the students' attitudes or behaviours indicate that they're not ready to learn in an adult environment, then we will refer them back to school, and the school will re-enroll them and catch them up with any work that they've missed at school. Parents, we will always talk to the students first. If they're running late for class, you won't get a text message. If they've missed a class, you won't get a call. Teachers and myself will always talk to the students first. If they don't change their behaviour after that, then we will talk to parents and get you involved. We like to think of it as we'll treat our students like adults until they prove otherwise. Now, this is excluding anything we feel that is a welfare issue, or if students are putting themselves at risk of failing or really falling behind in subjects. We will go to the parents first. There is no out-of-class supervision, so no yard duty or anything like that. Students are able to move between campuses and leave campuses to go up to the shops to get lunch. We would just expect students to be back on time for the next class. We have a learning management system similar to Compass called Student Web, where all of the students' work, timetables and results are available. VCAL is a government-supported course, which means there are some rules around it. The government will only support 2 courses commenced in a year. The government will only support 2 courses being completed at any one time. And the government will only support 2 courses at the same level. However, any courses that are completed as part of VCAL are excluded from that lifetime limit. So that is an amazing opportunity for students to explore a number of different career options and start to collect skills to build their skill bucket. The 2021 fees have not been approved yet, but I have included the 2020 fees to give you an example. We don't expect a huge variance for next year. Between 2019 and 2020, we had about a 5% increase. So we would expect about the same. So for a standard government supported student, the out-of-pocket expenses are $1.20 per hour. If a student is eligible for the concession rate, then the out-of-pocket is 24 cents per hour. There are some additional fees and charges on top of that. Service and amenities fee, which pays for all of the computers in the room, so there's no need for students to buy or bring laptops. They're more than welcome to if they want, but there's no need. It pays for the library and all of the support staff, our career counsellors, our support teams, the psychiatrists and psychologists we have on staff. We have course teaching materials at 35 cents per hour. This covers the fact that there is no book list. Students don't need to buy any textbooks at all. Everything is given to them. And then our core support skills, our core skills support fee of $80. This goes towards a number of language literacy and numeracy supports that students are able to access. So all in all, the amount that you would be expected to pay out of pocket would be between $1,650 and $1,200. Again, these are 2020 prices, and the vocational course fees will vary depending on their nominal hours and whether they are a tuition-free TAFE course. As part of the enrollment process, students will be given all of the fee breakdowns once they have been approved. by the Department of Education. So this is just a short slide about the free TAFE for priority courses. Free TAFE has been continued for 2021, and our VCAL students are the only VCAL students in the state that have access to this. So if students are interested in any of the courses on this list, they do have access to the tuition-free courses. It is important that we mention the student engagement. VCAL is harder to achieve than VCE. As I've spoken about already, VCAL is very individualized and it focuses on what the student wants, their goals and their passions. So a student can't sit up the back of class and have a nap and still expect to pass. In some cases, VCE students can sit up the back of the class and they will still pass their VCE. They might get a very low ATAR, but they'll still pass. VCAL, it is really not possible to do that. Students need to be engaged and part of their learning process. Teachers will work really closely with students on individual pathways for each student, so they need to be active in that and be a part of it. We are contractually obliged by the Department of Education that if a student has been disengaged for more than 4 weeks, then we should automatically withdraw them. We work really closely with students to ensure that this doesn't happen. Students will have my mobile phone number so they can text me or call me if there's issues. They'll have teachers' numbers. They will have teachers' email addresses, my email address, and they'll also have instant messaging capabilities within Student Web. If a student is running late or they're unwell, then all they need to do is contact us, and this does not affect their 4-week ruling. So it goes back to students need to be responsible for themselves and start that communication. It is important to note that engagement is by unit, not by the day. So if students are missing every Monday for 4 weeks in the morning, then we would withdraw them from the morning class only. They would still be enrolled in the afternoon. If students are withdrawn after 28 days from commencement, there is no refund available. However, if for any reason there's an issue within the first 28 days, please come and talk to me. Generally, we can fix the issue, but if we can't, then students will get a full refund if they want to withdraw within those 28 days. Schools do need to take students back. So whatever your home school is, if for whatever reason your pathway to Box Hill doesn't work, then your school will take you back and they'll catch you up on the work that you've missed within those 28 days. It is important to note that the 28 days do not start until the first class. So the process move from today, we are going to start the enrollment process. So those 28 days do not start until the first class, which is going to be the 8th of February 2021. So students can do all the enrollment process and you can make payment and you can still get a refund if something changes between now and February next year. We will start the process for your enrollment today if you want to become part of Box Hill's VCAL program, because it does take a little bit of time and we want to make sure it's done well before school finishes, so aware and you know what you have on your plate for next year and that you're secure in your spot. But before we get to the application process, I really want students to think about what their education history and background is like. But more importantly, what's going to change. 2020 has been a roller coaster of a year. Students may not have engaged as effectively as they could have with remote learning. So I want to know, more to the point of how you've gone this year, what you actually have identified within yourself and what's going to change moving forward. Have you really researched and understood your industry option? Because once you have made this decision, it is really difficult to change your mind. So if you're unsure of your industry, so your second course or vocational option, then please come and have a chat with me and we can work out what is going to be the best course for your pathway, what is going to be the best course if you really don't know what you want to do, and what is going to be the best course for your specific needs. Are you ready to leave school and learn in an adult setting? We have no bells, no uniform, no detention. There is more responsibility on students to be aware of their own behaviour, their attendance and their work commitments. So are you ready to take on that level of adult responsibility? We know not all students are ready. It's generally one or the other. Students will thrive and love the adult learning environment, or they won't, and they really want to go back to school. And that's okay. Adult learning is not for everybody, and it may not be for you this year, but you're more than welcome to join us again next year if that's the case. It's important that if you think you might be eligible for a concession, that you actually check it out, because it will save you about 80% of your fees. And then, do you need a transition from school form? You will need a transition from school form if you are under 17 years of age. Your school can sign the transition from school off at the moment. All they need to do is forward date it. So they would sign that you are on track to complete year 10, and as of, for example, the 30th of November, you will be exempt from school enrolment. Generally, the transition from school form is what holds your enrolment up. So it is important that if for any reason the school or yourself are having issues with the transition from school form, you communicate that with us. We work closely with all of our school partners to ensure that there is a smooth transition process, and we can normally facilitate whatever problems are happening with the transition form. So the enrollment process. The first step is to go to boxhill.edu.au/VCAL-2021. You can do that right now. Open it up in another browser and enter your information and details into that. That is the first step of the process. From there, that will produce a conditional letter of offer, which you will need to show to your school if you are under 17. You can just forward the email onto your school and they will have access to the letter of offer that's part of that email. You will also receive an additional email with an enrollment booking link and information about the Core Skills Diagnostic Profile. The Core Skills Diagnostic Profile needs to be completed by all new students. The Core Skills Profile is kind of like a literacy and numeracy assessment, but it's not a test. The assessment gives us a really good picture of where each student is at in their literacy, language, and numeracy, so we can better target our training and education for each student. So it's not a pass-fail test, so please don't be nervous about it. After you've done that, you will have booked into an enrolment session. You need to attend that enrolment session where we will run through the enrolment process with you. It can be a little complex, and that's why we are running these enrolment sessions. During that enrolment session, you will have an interview with one of the VCAL team members to complete what we call a pre-training review. This is a government mandated document that we need to complete. After all that is done, the offer is made and accepted by you. Generally, this is where the process will stop because we need to wait for the transition from school form, and we cannot continue until that is done. That's why it's important that if for any reason the school are not signing it, you need to come and talk to us and we can talk to the school. After we have the transition form, or if you're already over the age of 17, once you've accepted that offer, you make payment and then your place is secured. You'll get a welcome letter and information about orientation for 2021. Thank you for attending today's session. If there are any questions at all, please feel free to email us at vcal@boxhill.edu.au, or you can use the chat function inbuilt in today's Open Day platform, and I'll be here to answer any and all questions. I'll also be running a Q&A session at 5:30. If you have any other questions, please, you're more than welcome to come to that. But thank you for joining us today, and I look forward to meeting you all.